Hello, everyone, and welcome to my presentation titled Introducing Energy Justice in Electrical Engineering Curricula, a Teaching Pedagogy Approach. My name is Salman Mahagagi. I'm an associate professor at the Electrical Engineering Department at the Colorado School of Mines. Let's start with the objective behind this study. Many engineering problems can no longer be viewed as merely technical because they can have impacts on society and the environment and are best to be viewed as a socio-technical problem. The electric power grid is a perfect example. The way it's designed and operated can have non-negligible impacts on the environment and also the communities that it serves. Power generation plants, for example, can have negative consequences in terms of localized air quality, environmental toxicity, and reduction in land value. When these are built in rural areas, but their power is transmitted to urban areas, this is a clear imbalance in distribution of harms and benefits. In addition to that, after any type of large-scale natural disaster, we may have significant power outages that do not impact all communities and all households the same way. Topics such as these are best to be studied under the context of energy justice, which is typically divided into three tenets of distributional justice, recognition justice, and procedural justice. It's very important to incorporate energy justice into the curricula for power and energy classes, both at the undergraduate and graduate levels. However, there are challenges associated with that. Many students might consider energy justice as a subjective concept, and because of this, they might see it to be contradictory to the objective and science-based nature of electrical engineering. In addition to that, in certain political climates, this discussion on energy justice, especially if it's done in a top-down fashion by the instructor, might actually become counterproductive by raising sensitivities and pushbacks. And students who do not share points of view that are along the lines of those of the majority might feel that they may be judged based on the type of opinion that they hold. The goal of this exercise was to create an assignment for the students to be able to discuss energy justice in an unbiased and safe environment. And this was done in the form of an online discussion implemented on Canvas. In preparation for the exercise, um, some mini discussions were held in the classroom in terms of defining what energy justice is, what each of those tenets mean, going over the certain findings from the literature in terms of the impacts of various socioeconomic and demographic attributes on the ability of households and communities to handle long duration power outages, and also going over certain case studies of past long duration power outages that had led to unwanted consequences for society. Then the assignment went live, and it consisted of a background on energy justice, what it means, what some challenges associated with it are, technical challenges as well as budgetary challenges, followed by a series of questions that I tried my best to make them as comprehensive as possible and unbiased so that students with different opinions feel comfortable to pick one question and expand on it. The students were given 2 weeks to post an initial comment and then another 2 weeks to reply to the post made by at least two of their classmates. Every student would have to post an initial comment first before they could see the comments made by their classmates. To analyze the results, the posts were first reviewed and divided into passages to see what points each passage wanted to convey. These were used to create manifest codes. These were assigned to different passages based on the type of content and also any type of overlap that existed. The posts were reviewed again, this time looking for more subtle, more complex points that had not come out in the first analysis, and this created the latent codes. Together, the codebook was created, and then the process was repeated for student replies to see if any type of additional themes would emerge. The main themes that the students showed in their responses covered concepts such as the necessity of energy justice, the fact that access to electricity should be a basic human right, metrics to assess energy justice, how just and fair and equitable a grid is, the need for public involvement and public acceptance behind energy justice, the cost, how to compensate those costs, and who should enforce energy justice measures. A lot of interesting findings came out of students' comments and replies. There was a strong agreement among them that energy justice is necessary. However, who should lead those efforts? The discussion on this was not unanimous. Some believe that utilities should take the lead and share the cost, and others thought that the federal government or state and local entities should do that. Who should absorb the cost, whether it should be the entire community or certain parts of the community, again, was another point in which the students disagreed. Some argued that for energy justice, we should not look at expenses as just expenses because these are means for community resilience and they should be viewed as investments rather than expenses. And interestingly enough, some students recommended a deprivatization approach in which the private utilities would be adopting more of a community-owned, community-operated model, which is after maximizing social benefits rather than financial benefits for stakeholders. This, however, was not agreed on by all students because some consider the private sector to be the necessary driver for innovation and any type of technological advancement. This is a work in progress. There were interesting lessons learned and some ideas for future work. First, students showed a lot of awareness about importance of energy justice, but the difficulties associated with quantifying it, the fact that it might lead to increased cost of electricity, and discussion about what type of incentive might exist for utilities to pursue this. One of my main goals was to make sure that the students remain practical and not idealistic in their solutions and discussions. And this was observed in a lot of responses in which they try to make sure to frame it in a way that electric utilities actually operate in real life. It is very normal for students to get impacted by biases like groupthink bias or sunflower bias, and perhaps not want to share their opinion if they feel that they believe something different from the majority point of view. Quite a few times throughout the semester, I emphasized that every opinion is respected. There is no right or wrong, but how much of an impact this assurances had on the students with minority points of view is unknown. Based on the outcome of the study, there are some strategies for future implementations. Myself as the instructor and the grader can take a more active role in these discussions to kind of create more engagement for the students, have follow-up posts, make it more like an active discussion. Some form of peer review might be used for the same purpose. We could include case studies that show unsuccessful instances of energy justice implementation to create a counter argument point of view for those who do not share the majority opinion. And of course, it was suggested by a couple of students to have follow-up in-class discussions to go over some of these points raised and have kind of a closure interactive discussion. Thank you for your attention to this study, and I look forward to receiving your comments and questions.